Welcome to the Dynasty Roundtable podcast. We're back at it, Matt Babich, and we have a special guest with us tonight, don't we?
Yes, we do. From the Dynasty Warzone podcast. You know it from potentially right here at playerprofiler.com Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time, the best time zone that there is. Don't come at me with this Eastern Standard Time garbage, but it's Memphis Young. How we doing?
I am doing great. Super excited to be here. Yeah, that was you're letting them in behind the scenes of the email back and forth about you guys are like, this is Central Time. I'm like, what's Central Time? But before I lived in Indiana my whole life. There was a time when we used to, like, half the year we didn't observe daylight savings time, so we were on Central Time part of the time. But nope, we got it all worked out. I'm here and I'm ready to talk some season's here, right? Week 2 preseason right around the corner. A lot of stuff going on. Really a great time to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And we have to get it kicked off right away with probably what everybody in fantasy football has been focused on the last couple days. I mean, it's the elephant in the room in Memphis. I'll go straight to you. Dalvin Cook, Zeke Elliott. Dalvin signs with the Jets. Zeke Elliott signs with the Patriots. Are contending teams with Stevenson and Breece Hall in trouble, or how are you viewing this whole situation that's unfolded the last couple days?
Well, I'll start with the Breece Hall first because he's my dynasty RB2 right now. It's a 1-year deal, and sometimes in dynasty, because we can live in a fishbowl. Now, we're supposed to be, quote unquote, playing the long term, so you should be looking in the future, but you should also be looking in the past a couple of years. Just because Dalvin played all 17 games last year does not mean that's his norm. He's by no means an Iron Man in his own right. Hell, he can't even practice right now because he's not fully released from shoulder surgery. So if this gives you a cheap opportunity to buy Breece Hall, awesome. Because what's going to happen? The same thing that happens to all the running backs. He's going to fulfill the last 2 years of his rookie deal. He's probably going to get franchised. So you know he's going to be in the Jets organization for 3 years. Now, I've got a bold prediction later on Aaron Rodgers, but he's going to have Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years. Spoiler alert. And I think this is a great opportunity that if you can buy him low, do it. Because what I really want is the term the Podfather uses is meat shield. I want Dalvin Cook to be that early season meat shield. Take all those garbage carries that really don't mean anything. Basically, he's just taking Michael Carter's job. And then we're going to get in the fantasy playoffs. He's going to be another 2 or 3 months removed from the ACL surgery. He's going to have his legs back under him. And guess what's coming right around at the end of December? Fantasy football playoffs. And you're going to have a guy that's probably going to be crushing it. And you know what? Maybe he's getting 50-50, and maybe instead of getting you 13 or 14 or 15 PPR points a game, maybe he's getting you 12. But we always know he has those spike week potentials. So I'm not sweating it. It's a 1-year deal. I actually think this is great for Breece Hall because for us that want to buy running backs, because running backs are not worth a whole lot right now. It's weird to say because, what was it, like 2018, 2019? You couldn't get a running back. You couldn't get a Christian McCaffrey. You couldn't get a guy, an Alvin Kamara. At the time before the incident, you couldn't get a Kareem Hunt. Now running backs are just kind of looked at as interchangeable parts. But if you want to get a really good one, this Dalvin Cook news has given you the opportunity to do it. Well, what are your thoughts, though? I'll throw it back to Matt because, I don't know if that's a Patriots jersey on. Maybe we'll talk Ramondre here in a minute. But what are your thoughts on the cross East Coast rivalry with the Jets and your thoughts on Dalvin?
Yeah, so Breece Hall is a special talent, and the New York Jets know that. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the meat shield, and that's what Dalvin's going to be. And when we think about Breece Hall's expectations going into the year, I mean, these Dalvin Cook rumors have been happening for a very long time. And I think everyone's been kind of working with the assumption that the Jets were going to make some sort of move with, having these, hosting Dalvin Cook for workouts and having him to the locker room. And Dalvin Cook, what is Dalvin Cook as an asset right now that different from Kareem Hunt? Kind of a satellite plus at this point, not very explosive, but reliable. So why can't Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook be something more of a Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt situation? But the thing is, Breece Hall is a natural pass catcher. 80th percentile college target share, had a game with 10 targets and a game with 11 targets in his rookie season. That was in weeks 1 and 3 right away in the NFL. And that's in a backfield with an established target earner as a rookie with Michael Carter. So he came onto the scene and he proved himself as an efficient pass catcher, a hyper efficient runner. He was RB 14 and 13 in 2 consecutive weeks with 15 total carries between the 2 weeks. So I don't think there's anything Dalvin can do within the world, the realistic world that we live in, that he can actually knock Breece Hall that far off of his value. So in terms of dynasty, if you're contending with Breece Hall, you're certainly not selling. You're not in trouble year one, and you're looking. This is a buy window.
Can I throw something in? Because not enough people outside of the Player Profiler Network are talking about this, and I've talked about it a lot. Because we're not going to really talk a lot about these guys, but we're sleeping on guys like Chris Godwin and George Pickens. Because what are they? They're another year post ACL rehab. Both those guys tore their ACLs. It was either, I know for a fact Godwin was real late in December 2021, and George Pickens was in the national championship game or the NCAA playoff that year. Both those guys are another full year removed from those ACLs, and like no one's talking about that as part of their potential upside ceiling, but you hear that here on Player Profiler. This is the thing. I was never counting on Breece Hall to be a super mega producer. Anything that he gives me this year, like from week 8 or 9 on, I consider that like a bonus, because I was always getting him knowing that it's not the second year removed from the ACL. And that's when these guys really come back. Cooper Kupp, did that. So many of these guys do that. It's that year away. So yes, I still love Breece Hall, but just a little side nugget for tuning into the Dynasty Roundtable is you need to go back and see what current valuation on Chris Godwin is. 27 years old, set to smash in a spot in Tampa Bay.
Talk about someone who feels like he's been around for a while. Chris Godwin's only 27. Because if you were to ask me his age, I would have told you 29. Flat out.
He's a year and change younger than Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, I just did this on the Dynasty Warzone this past Sunday. Calvin Ridley's 28 when the season starts. He'll be 28 in 8 months. He's almost 29. Like, he's much more in that window with the Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, not quite Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp, but he's close. Whereas Chris Godwin is like, he's right at that perfect season. And here's the thing. He missed like 2 or 3 games last year and had 140 targets. Now the defense is worse. They're going to be playing from behind, and he works in that short to intermediate area where quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield thrive. I'm telling you, it wasn't on the show sheet. It wasn't on the show sheet, but I'm throwing it out here for your listeners. Go look in your leagues, and even contender, not a contender. He's 27. You can get 3+ good years out of him. Maybe even get a QB upgrade next year, and he's a steal. So sorry, didn't mean to throw you off the show sheet, but these guys, you can't expect the very next year post ACL. That's the larger point. You can't expect these guys like immediately post ACL just to come in here and kick ass and take names. There's a known time frame with this, and Breece Hall's no different. I mean, you get the occasional animal like Adrian Peterson, who's just like more cyborg than human, but most of us mortals, most of these mortal guys, they take a little bit of time, and you're going to get some value with that. And the notorious Jay in the chat said, don't forget about Jamison Williams, also another year removed. So, but he's got to quit gambling first.
He's got and fighting his teammates.
Yeah. I think we got the sneak peek last year. I mean, I know it's funny, year to year, we can have short memories, and dynasty gamers, sometimes even myself, can have short memories. But I think we got a sneak peek with J.K. Dobbins last year. J.K. Dobbins only played 8 games toward the end of the season and started to come on towards the end of the 2022 season. So I was right there with you, Memphis. I was always factoring in that was a likely outcome for Breece Hall, that he probably wouldn't be available maybe the first 4 weeks of the season the way we would like him to. But the fact is, Breece Hall, I was drafting him everywhere in redraft in 2022, and he was on that trajectory that we thought he could be on. He's a very exciting player, and I know signing Dalvin Cook is not the greatest for the short term, but in Dynasty, we play in 2 to 3 year windows. So, and we get these guys for their careers. So this is definitely an opportunity to do a price check on Breece Hall. I would definitely be feeling out some offers.
Well, I think the Jets did you a favor. The Jets the Jets did you a favor as a dynasty gamer, and here's how I see that. Because based on bringing in Aaron Rodgers, short window to be able to compete, like they really think they can have a chance at the playoffs and maybe making some noise, and they should. That defense looked awesome the other day. They kicked the crap out of Carolina. And not only does bringing in Dalvin Cook, it actually serves two things. It lets Aaron Rodgers know they're serious about spending money. They're serious about doing whatever it takes to compete. They did you a favor because they see themselves as a contender. It's actually taking reps off of Breece Hall that you don't want. You don't want those ugly reps early in the season. You don't want Robert Saleh and Nathaniel Hackett to feel like they have to use him more than they should, because they're trying to win ball games. Having a guy like Dalvin Cook there serves the master of real football to allow them to continue to win games, but it takes those meaningless week 4 through 11 reps off of his knee that's going to allow him to come back in 2024 and be a supercharged, kick-ass dynasty asset.
Yeah, don't you think in best ball, like in those weeks that really matter, if you can pair him with some running backs like David Montgomery and Rachaad White, that can really help out. I know this is a dynasty show, but I'm thinking about it into best ball. Like you get a huge discount probably on Breece Hall. Theo was telling me the other day, or today, actually, Theo was telling me he saw Breece Hall slip to the 6th round in one of those best ball tournaments, which is crazy to me. He's gonna be contributing towards the back half of the season. And those are the weeks, like if you make it, the week 15, 16, 17 playoff slate, that's where Breece Hall is going to be available. So I honestly, I didn't even really consider that. Like, that's a good point you made, that Dalvin's likely going to be taking those carries that we don't really even want Breece Hall to have anyway. So
if Breece Hall didn't take a carry on their own side of the 50 the entire season, I think I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, bring him in short yardage.
So little value.
Yes, let him get targets. Remember, and I always like to credit this because I think it's a tremendous stat, but I don't want to pretend like it's mine. Graham Barfield did the math on this a few years ago that a running back target is worth 2.8 carries. So if you tell me Dalvin Cook is taking more of the between the tackles beating, and Breece Hall can get more of those receptions, which are more valuable to us as mostly PPR and half PPR fantasy gamers, we're winning on two fronts. So I don't think that Dalvin Cook is bad, but if you're someone who had Dalvin Cook, you're going to be able to use him. And I think what I'm doing with the Dalvin Cook on the flip side of this, we can wave pom-poms for Breece Hall because we're very excited. But if you're a dynasty gamer with Dalvin Cook, you're going to get a great sell opportunity in a couple of weeks. And if you can package him with your second and go get a 24 first, feels like a hell of a move. Hey, man, you're a contender. You know what? That's probably going to be like the 110, the 109. Let me give you this mid-second. You're only moving back a couple of places, and you're picking up Dalvin Cook. You got to put your salesman cap on a little bit, but you're getting a 24 first. And remember, 24 first, especially in Superflex, Caleb Williams, Drake May, is it Quinn Ewers? Bowers or Browers, whatever, the tight end from Georgia, Marvin Harrison Jr. I just rattled off 5 guys in Superflex tight end premium, and I didn't mention one running back. If you can move off of Dalvin Cook, get that final payout, add a little something, get that 24 first from a contender, doesn't matter because of the quarterback talent that we're going to see this year in the rookie class, you can make a nice little profit by moving off Dalvin Cook. So you can use him for a little bit. You can sell him when the games get live. That's kind of how I'm approaching Dalvin Cook, because he's going to get washed in the free agent market next year anyway, because it's packed.
Yeah. That early season schedule, though, better not get to him, because they start the season against the Bills, the Cowboys, the Patriots, and the Chiefs. The Patriots is probably the one game where the Jets probably at home beat up on the Pats a little bit. And you're hoping for a 2-touchdown game somewhere in that stretch. It could happen.
I know we say this every year, but Memphis, I think now is the perfect time to do exactly what you just said. So there's some hype on Dalvin Cook right now, like you mentioned. What you talked about is exactly what I try to do. Is like when these things happen, it's like, okay, Dalvin Cook's value just got boosted up. I love this 2024 class. I feel like we say it every year, but Matt and I did a mock draft and a deep dive into it. There's like Brock Bowers is amazing.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks are great. The Rocket Sanders from Arkansas looks really good. I mean,
I don't know
there's so
shit
many-
about this NCAA class. I know nothing, but I have a great we have our own network, the Dynasty Warzone network, on top of doing stuff for Player Profiler. We have a guy named Dallas Hyder who does rookie stuff for us, and he does great stuff. These are just the names that I can rattle off the top of my head. I can't even really name a lot of the good running backs. You guys can educate me on that, but I'm smart enough to know that if you play, which most of us do, I'd say 70% of leagues right now are probably super flex, especially in Dynasty.
Mhm.
And when I can rattle off 3 quarterbacks top of my head, forget you guys who are really into like the college and the Devy stuff. You guys are really into this. But you see very quickly, anytime there's a good QB class in Superflex and tight end premium, it really, really makes the first. Like this year, we had a good first round QB class. 2 years ago, we didn't. It was Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett. Man, that was rough. But yes, the 24 first are going to be very, very valuable. And I'm not normally a chase a first guy, but if you're going to get ahead of it, because once you get in season, you know all the Dynasty content's going to be like, go chase the first Marvin Harrison touchdown. It's over.
Yeah.
That's
why I like to do it now.
He
Before
said he might run like a 4.3 840.
I hope he does.
I think that would be at least 85th percentile speed score, which would be, I mean, just insane to add on to everything else on his profile.
I like 6'4", 220 or something.
Something similar. I mean, he's a freak.
Yeah.
Egbuka is good too. Anyway, we don't go too.
We can go down a bunch of roads on this topic.
We could just make this a 2024 draft class show if we wanted to. But do we talk about Ramondre at all? I want to.
Yeah, I'm interested. I kind of want to kick off this conversation because I heard a lot of nuggets through that conversation about Breece Hall that would insinuate that both of you share a similar feeling about Ramondre Stevenson. So I'll kick it over to Memphis to start to see if that's true.
I actually think first of all, I was never a Ramondre Stevenson guy. Let me start there. Because as a rookie, he had 18 targets. Last year, he had 88 targets, which is the real thing. Oh, but the 18 came with Josh McDaniels as the OC. And I'm going to loosely call Matt Patricia and Joe Judge OCs, co-OCs last year. Now we got Bill O'Brien. So I got 18 on one hand, 88 targets on the other. Okay. I think that the middle was always, the average was probably always the case, like 56 targets and like 45 catches. The problem is we saw the 88 targets, and that's what everybody's chasing. Bill Belichick has been doing this to dynasty and fantasy gamers forever. He does not love the running back position. And my thing is that even though, to his credit for running back, Ramondre Stevenson played all 17 games last year. And kudos, because it's a tough grind to play running back. He was listed as the starter 7 times. Those 7 times were mostly the games when Damian Harris was not the starter, when he was injured, because that's what Damian Harris does. He gets injured. So for me, you just lost touchdown upside because as quote-unquote washed as Zeke is, he's still a goal line guy. I think he had like 12 touchdowns last year around the goal line. And Zeke had like a 4-year run where he had 47 or more receptions. So it's not like he's just this between the tackles grinder. And I don't trust Bill Belichick. So in like redraft, you're already sunk with Ramondre. You got him, run with him. From a dynasty standpoint, if you can find anyone who's still bullish, I'm looking to get out of the Ramondre business. Now, your hope is that Zeke is washed. They cut him. It's a couple of $3 million. I think, if I remember correctly, New England's number 5 next year in current 2024 salary cap.
They're up there.
So $3 million with $6 million upside. My thing with Zeke is I don't think most people know that he and Ramondre Stevenson share an agent. So Zeke took an incentive-laden contract, and if you're Zeke, do you take an incentive-laden contract unless you've been assured you're going to get the touches that are going to give you the opportunity to hit those incentives? That feels like a conversation that's been had. So I don't want to completely poo-poo the Ramondre Stevenson, but he was trending, and it's not just Player Profiler. Player Profiler had him as like RB 13, 14 in a startup. That's pretty much consensus if you look at the nerds or DLF or Fantasy Pros. So that's very in that same pocket. man, if I could add a little bit and get out of that business and get like a Najee Harris or because like he's like RB 10 to 11, so they're pretty close. I would love to get out of the Ramondre business. Nothing against Ramondre. It's just I don't trust Bill Belichick. I don't know what this workload is going to look like. So that's I kind of took it opposite. I took it as positive for Brees and more negative for Ramondre. Now, but you're wearing the Patriots jersey. First of all, what number? What player? And then what were your thoughts?
I'll give out the number and let's see if you guys can guess the player.
Okay.
The number is 10.
10. Ooh.
It's not McCorkle.
Slight. Oh, yeah, true. It is not McCorkle. That'd be too obvious. Slight hint, didn't play there for very long.
Didn't play there for very long.
Is it Jacoby Myers?
No, I think
17 would be, or sorry, 16 would be Jacoby Myers.
Okay, but had that same like that full circle shape to it. I don't know.
I don't know either.
This player, like Calvin Ridley, was a very promising asset, and then sat out for a year and a half, and then tried to come back and play some football, and that's Josh Gordon.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
God.
That beautiful game in 2019 where Tom Brady was thrown to Antonio Brown and Josh Gordon.
That just tells you what kind of a person Tom Brady is. He's a saint. He's willing to take in these guys. Like he brought Antonio Brown with him everywhere. So I've been playing forever. I've been playing Dynasty and fantasy football forever. And I thought I had learned my lesson with Braylon Edwards. If you guys remember Braylon Edwards.
I do.
He had, I think it was 1,414 touchdowns one year. And I thought I'd learned my lesson. And then here comes Josh Gordon. And I chased him around like a puppy dog for many years because you just look at him. It's like we talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. earlier. I'm not saying that Josh Gordon was physically Marvin Harrison Jr., but dude, you saw that guy. He just looked the part. Absolutely crazy. So that bums me. Anyway, I didn't mean to go down a Josh Gordon rabbit hole, but great choice of jerseys.
Yeah.
Thank you. I like the niche ones. So the Pats jerseys I currently have with me here are Mac Jones, Josh Gordon, Cam Newton, and Kendrick Bourne. So, and Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman Super Bowl jersey.
No Wes Welker? Big Wes Welker guy.
I had one when I was younger and then just never revamped. I had a Welker and a Woodhead one when I was back in the old days.
Danny Woodhead. Man.
Yeah.
PPR gold, by the way.
I love. Speaking of PPR gold, that's what I think Ramondre Stevenson can be this season. Now, you laid out perfectly the anti-Ramondre Stevenson argument, and it's a good one, but and it's always comes down to the coaching, right? We don't trust Bill Belichick. You made a good point with the offensive coordinator situation. That is not one I generally get tossed my way, but I will throw out a coaching trend, and it comes in the form of targets per season. This running back had 54, 86, 72, 123, 95, and 62 targets from 2015 to 2020 for the New England Patriots, and that's James White. Now, as far as I'm concerned on this team, Ramondre Stevenson still fits the pass-catching back mold more than anyone else. Pierre Strong still hasn't been able to create a drumbeat, hasn't been overly impressive in camp, hasn't created snaps for himself. Neither is Kevin Harris, to the point where they brought in Ezekiel Elliott. And I still think that with Ezekiel Elliott, similarly to what we were talking about with Brees and Dalvin Cook, where Ramondre Stevenson is still getting a bulk of the running back targets, and Zeke is taking up a lot of the garbage. Now he's going to get a lot of goal line touches, which does ruin Stevenson's touchdown upside. But I don't know if any of us expected the Patriots to be this high octane offense that was going to create a ton of touchdowns for Stevenson anyway. So I see that as somewhat of a double count in a way, where he might only be taking like 2 or 3 touchdowns away from him, which can be crucial. But with the pass catching talent or lack thereof on this team, Stevenson, with his efficiency and ability as a receiver, can still work his way to 60, 75 targets fairly easily, in my opinion, with the way this team is going to have to force to keep up with New York and Miami and Buffalo. And if that's the case, he's probably paying off in redraft Now, if we shift to best ball at the 2-3 turn, he's a little expensive. But if you're already holding him, now we got to talk about Dynasty. Like, he's going to be fine this year, but I think you're right that if the hype is still high, I might be waiting to the season to see if we can get some spike weeks, because his value's dipped a little bit. I would like to see that return to the mean. But
I think you're spot on. You want to see a handful of games played because Zeke is still going to need an on-ramp. He's going to need to get warmed up, and I don't think he's going to come in and immediately be able to just assert himself. But this is, and you'll find, and I'm a Colts fan, by the way, but you'll find no bigger fan of Bill Belichick than me. But this is that trap that he falls in as an older coach. He falls in like you just see Bill Belichick game planning weekend, like when they played the Cowboys, he's game planning for Zeke. Remember, he brought in Reggie Wayne. He brings in these older veterans that he has a lot of, reverence for. And I just see him possibly giving Zeke a larger work share than he wants. That's one of my concerns, just because in his mind, he's Zeke, and Bill Belichick sees him as Zeke. And Bill Belichick was the guy who started Damian Harris over Ramondre Stevenson. So it feels like there's already a Bill Belichick bias against him. And then I just remember last year when Mac Jones was flipping out on the sidelines, cussing all the checkdowns. I don't think there's as many checkdowns in this offense this year as initially thought. I think we're close. You said 60 to 70 in that range. I have it like 55, 60 targets.
Yeah, I mean, I would say 75 is certainly more of like an 80th or higher percentile output.
Sure.
But
and you're right. They are going to be behind, but I think the defense is going to be better, which is Bill Belichick's baby. And now we have a professional. I don't care. He was the world's worst GM. He was a better than you realize head coach, but he's a pretty darn good offensive coordinator in Ramondre Stevenson, and a high tide raises all boats. So I don't think it's as bad as everyone thinks it is for Ramondre, but I'm with you in redraft. If you got him, best ball, you're doing the puppy or whatever it is with Underdog, promo code Underworld, by the way, just in case you didn't know. But if you've already got him, you got him. But like, if he doesn't drop into like the 4th or maybe even the 5th round in redraft, because the biggest redraft of the weekend's coming up, not this week, but the next 2 weekends are the 2 huge redraft weekends. If he doesn't slide a little bit in seasonal leagues, I'm going to let him go and go in a different route, just because there's so much ambiguity in this backfield that I would just fade. But I'm with you. Let's get a couple of 2-3 good games under his belt and then try to sell in Dynasty and get that cash out that you may not get if the season gets sideways.
Yeah, this is very well said. I don't think I have too much to add to it. You guys presented both sides of the case very well, I think. In my case, I'm in a lot of leagues, and I don't know if I have much Ramondre Stevenson at all. So this could be an opportunity for somebody if you're like me that doesn't have much. You could get a discount now just to balance out that portfolio if you're a portfolio player. But I do think Zeke looked really dusty last year, but again, we have to consider the coach. So this is a very complex situation. I don't really know how I feel about it, but if you're asking me fundamentally, how do I play Dynasty? It's all about price for me. So I'm probably going to be testing the waters of Ramondre to see what the price is for Ramondre now, because the price has gone down, just to see if maybe I can get a share or two just to balance out my portfolio. But not the biggest fan of Ramondre, even though he did finish, I think, as the RB10. I know he was a top 12 RB last year, but very well said on both sides there. Very well done. Why don't we move to this next topic we have? So we can't get caught up in preseason, but when these rookies are out there, right? And they're flashing. I mean, the Podfather tweeted out Zay Flowers, which looked really good, by the way. It's really impressive. So Memphis, which rookie has impressed you the most so far in preseason after week 1?
I don't think we've seen enough of him yet, but I really liked what I saw from Roschon Johnson. The Podfather, you just mentioned him. He likes to mention, I'm drawing a blank on his name, the gentleman from Roster Watch.
Alex Dunlap.
Thank you very much. Alex Dunlap, who also writes for the Texas some kind of a media outlet with Texas. But anyway, he always talked about like Roschon was really more of a 1B. He wasn't a 2. And it was only a couple of runs the other day, but I was really impressed with what I saw. Now, I know the listener may have saw the highlight, the 56-yard touchdown pass to Khalil Herbert. I get it. He's the incumbent. But if you read all the drum beats, so by the way, a little hack for all the listeners of the roundtable, create a new Twitter account, okay? Twitter account. Only follow the beat writers, the athletic writers, and like the ESPN assigned journalists for each team. That's it. No, because you got your other handle to follow, follow Seth, follow Matt, follow me, the Warzone Roundtable. You can do all that there, but just follow these beat reporters. You get nothing but their input on everything. And I do that. That's because I shop at my own store, take my own advice, and I have this Twitter account. And you hear that Roschon is going to be a big part of this offense. So do I think that he takes over the season? No, but as we get into the middle of the season, do I think Roschon's going to be really good? So I will start there. And then the other running back that I really like was Tajay Spears. Same game. I didn't watch the entire game, but because, Derrick Henry's not a pass catcher. I think we all know that at like age 29, and that's okay. They just lost potentially for a couple of weeks Treylon Burks. Luckily, it was only a sprain and nothing that will keep him out for the season, but he's going to be involved in the passing game. And as we know, these running backs involved in the passing game, we referred to Graham Barfield's stat earlier in the show. Those are the first two guys that really came to mind for me from the running back position. I guess I'll throw it back to you, Seth. You're there in the rookie space. What do you think about Roschon and Tajay Spears? Where were you at to start the season, and where are you now?
Oh, I was on Mock Draft Live. So we do these rookie mock drafts leading up to the NFL draft. And I was doing one, I think it might have been with Aaron Stewart. It was really early on in the process. And just based on my evaluation, I took in a single quarterback league. Now, obviously, factoring in Roschon's draft capital now, I wouldn't have done this in hindsight. But my evaluation then, I took him as the 6th overall player in that rookie mock draft months before the NFL draft. And it was probably one of the most disliked mock draft lives that we did because people were going crazy. Like, who's Roschon Johnson? We don't know who this guy is. He's a backup running back, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but you watch him play and you look at the Chicago backfield, he is clearly the most diverse running back they have. He can catch, he can pass protect, he's great at running in between the tackles. He can do it all. And that is not Khalil Herbert, Donta Foreman. They have the most invested in Roschon now that as a 4th round pick. I think Poles is building this thing the right way. And they called him a franchise pillar when they drafted him. So I think there's a lot there. It may not happen right away, but I really believe I'm sticking to it. By week 6, Roschon's going to be the opportunity leader in that backfield. He's really, really good. He's like, I've been in on Player Profiler. We've been in on him this whole time. And I love him. I absolutely love him. To speak of Tajay Spears real quick, I like Tajay Spears quite a bit too. I don't have as much information on him as I do on Roschon. I've been following Roschon very closely, but Tajay Spears, very impressive prospect too that I like quite a bit. Matt, who are some of your rookies, or do you want to speak to Roschon a little bit?
Yeah, I'll quickly speak to Roschon because I made a face earlier and it was at this. When was Roschon in terms of like public ADP? Because that's a thing, but in terms of actual rankings, Roschon was never actually behind Kendre Miller. So I want to just get out in front of that. Yeah, Seth and I have been Seth before myself, but we have been pounding the table for Roschon Johnson for a long time. Tajay Spears, scared me a little bit with, not having any cartilage in one of his knees, but as a short-term asset, that's what you're betting on in that case, because his long-term outlook is pretty rough. We saw it happen with guys like Todd Gurley, but he impressed with what he can do as a satellite plus. And, if Derrick Henry they don't want him to take all the touches. So if
I think he's the guy that you want, because Derrick Henry is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. And I think this is Tennessee's all-in season. That's why they went and got DeAndre Hopkins. It's the last year of any real money on Ryan Tannehill's contract. And I think next year they want to turn this offense over to Will Levis. They want to turn it over to Treylon Burks and Tajay Spears and Chig Okonkwo. And this is the last year these old guys are in the way. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't bring back in a veteran or maybe even draft someone else. But Tajay Spears, ramp to being really, really useful is right in front of us. And I wouldn't be surprised if you have a 2-year asset, because I would not be surprised. Kind of like, I'm not calling Derrick Henry Fat Lenny, but if we have a situation this year where you have the incumbent veteran with the incumbent veteran quarterback, which would have been Leonard Fournette and Tom Brady, and you had the young, shiny upside guy over here off to the side in Rachaad White. And then fast forward 12 months, Ryan Tannehill's no longer in Tennessee. Derrick Henry leaves in free agency because he's 29, almost 30. And then all of a sudden, this time next year, we here at Player Profiler in the Dynasty Warzone are talking about a guy like Tajay Spears in a similar voice that we're talking about Rachaad White. And if you have Tajay Spears now, you're potentially way ahead of your league mates. You're a year ahead of being a year ahead. So that factors in there too.
Yeah, it absolutely does. To highlight some of the rookies that impressed me. So speaking as a Boilermaker, how about Aiden O'Connell?
Heck yeah.
Only 3 incompletions, and 2 of them were drops. 144 passing yards, a QBR of about 117, and a touchdown pass. He got his first touchdown pass out of the way. He commanded the offense with a lot of poise for a rookie. The nerves are really high for all these guys in their first game, and he seemed pretty calm and felt like he was at home, on the football field, like he has a relationship with these guys already. So interesting to see out of all the rookie quarterbacks, Aiden O'Connell looked almost like he was the most settled in out of any of them. But this is a guy who late round draft pick with a lot of appeal in super flex leagues this year, with Jimmy Garoppolo's health, questionable, and he doesn't look good in camp right now. The Raiders are going to be in the business of losing games to up their draft capital. And that's going to come down to Aiden O'Connell probably starting games this season. So it was impressive to see, a 6th round pick come out and look that poised in his first NFL game. As a Boilermaker, I'm really happy to see it. The talent was there. Quick shout out to Payne Durham while I'm at it. He caught a touchdown pass as well. So it was a good week 1 for Boilermakers, except for Charlie Jones, because my second highlight, Andre Yoshivas, he looks like a dude in Cincinnati. And there's a lot of talks about what's going to happen to T. Higgins in this team. Yoshivas is the next man up. So Higgins is officially on notice, because I don't think I've seen a receiver peppered with as many targets as he was in that game against Green Bay. And he was winning his routes. He was getting open. These passes were just so awful. One of us could have went out there. And granted, we had so much pocket protection, we didn't have to worry about another human body getting close to us, but we could have thrown a better pass. So Yoshivas is another guy who, Cody Carpentier, tote from way back in the day, but he looks like a dude, and he could have a role in this offense at some point, especially if there's an injury.
I love the Aiden O'Connell take, and not just because I'm an Indiana guy, you're a Purdue guy. It's because of who the guy in front of him is. Jimmy Garoppolo, not the healthiest cat around last time I checked. And what would you say the over-under is on O'Connell starts this year? I'd say if I had to book it, 4.5. 4.5, you take the under-over, that's the number of games. Because here's the thing. If the Raiders get off to a slow start, and they probably will because that's a tough division, hey, let's see. Because what do they say? Well, we got to see what we got in the rookie, Aiden O'Connell, because we're not going to do well. And we already talked about at least 3 of the quarterbacks in this upcoming draft class. The Raiders could be prime candidates for Caleb Williams, although I think Arizona has the inside track there. But we mentioned Drake May and Quinn Ewers. There is going to be a potential where you see a lot of Aiden O'Connell, and that doesn't mean that he's going to win the job long term. But if you have him now, someone's going to think, oh, he's the next Brock Purdy. And you can potentially flip him later. But he did look good. I would 100%. And by the way,
he's
speaking of nerves.
He's the next Davis Mills.
That's actually really good. But, you mentioned that Raiders game, that was their only preseason home game. And if I heard correctly, that was a sellout. So imagine him playing in front of a sellout Las Vegas crowd, your very first game in the NFL. Even though it's preseason, it's still sold out. It's still Las Vegas. And to perform that well was actually pretty cool. So I love that one. I have one for Seth. Now, you a wide receiver guy?
Yeah.
So I have two of my bigger hits, as long as I've been doing this creating content, have been Terry McLaurin as a rookie. Okay. Nailed him. And the other one was Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp was my first big hit. I was like, you got to get him, you got to get him, because I just love him. You know who's in that mold and is showing out in camp but doesn't really have the game footage yet? Is Michael Wilson. I absolutely
that's music to my ears.
I love that third round NFL draft capital. I like smart people. Last time I checked, they don't let dummies into Stanford. It's not Purdue. Stanford is the Purdue of the West Coast, but it's smart people. He's different than. So in any industry in life, you're either the same as, better than, or different than those that you work with or contribute with. He is different. He's a taller guy. All the other guys are small. He fits that role that DeAndre Hopkins was playing there to a T. He's going to get a very featured role very early. And I'm telling you, the prices went up since rookie drafts, but get him because it's only going to go up more. That dude's a ball player. And as long as the foot injuries from early in his college career doesn't come back, you're looking at a guy who's going to exponentially increase his value like a Cooper Kupp, like a Terry McLaurin, because he's got some juice to him, man.
It was actually the episode the Podfather was on here. We reviewed my rookie portfolio, my highest owned rookie, because I kept drafting him. He kept falling to the fourth round. Was Michael Wilson, baby.
Mine's like 68%. Like 2/3 of my team got Michael Wilson on it, so I'm here for it.
Oh yeah, I've got I think 10 or 12 shares somewhere in there.
I managed to not have like a fourth round pick in any of my dynasty leagues this year somehow, but I got like a ton of second and thirds where I was grabbing like Marvin Mims and Jaden Reed. So I got a bunch of. I'm at probably like 50-60% Mims/Reed and like an and or situation.
Oh, Matt's over here like the woman with a Virginia ham under her arm crying the blues because she has no bread. You're not starving over here, dude.
I'm not starving.
You got Marvin Mims and Jaden Reed. You're doing fine. But you know what? Maybe you want to recoup. Maybe you can go out and because you're saturated with those guys. And Seth mentioned it earlier. You talk about diversification of your players. Maybe you go out and move one of those guys and try to get Michael Wilson and like maybe a second back. Maybe it's Wilson in a fourth you get Wilson and a second and you give up Reed in a fourth or something. That's a great deal. You put a little draft capital back and maybe you diversify a little bit.
I didn't even think like that. That's why we got Memphis on the pod, to help Seth and I specifically get better our teams.
Oh, for sure. This has been great. We do have to run a quick, what we call an informative segment from the Podfather, because he came on here and I don't know if he scolded us. We called him an ad and he didn't like that. He said, say informative segment. So we say informative segment around.
I've heard him say a lot of things in that tone. I don't think he wasn't necessarily scolding us. That's just...
I jest, tongue in cheek. It's fine. It's the Podfather. So here's a quick informative segment. The draft kit is live. Here it comes from the Podfather.
Hey, it's the Podfather. I have great news. The 2023 draft kit is live. It is world famous. Why? Because it is the best resource for winning fantasy football championships that exists. There are rankings and cheat sheets for every format you can imagine. We have projections both at the team level and the player level. And wherever you are, you can click on a player, open them up, and see in-depth written analysis about what to expect in fantasy football from that player this year. And then you can click on the team, and you can get even more in-depth analysis, all the drivers of fantasy production, both in a positive and negative direction for that team, including a signature trend. And the graphics are incredible. So these team insights, they give you the team level projections, the vacated targets, the vacated areas, and that one dynamic for each team that you need to know when making decisions on draft day. And we added a bunch of features. I mean, individual cheat sheets for Theo and Billy and Dario. So you could take your favorite analyst and download their personal draft cheat sheet. And then in the commissioners section, also brand new this year, Memphis Young lays out everything you need to know to manage a league, do's, don'ts, tips, and what the more innovative fantasy commissioners are doing this year. That's presented by Trophy Smack. The whole package is presented by the Fantasy Football Players Championship, the FFPC, Ray Garvin, Derek Brown, the best minds in the industry contributing analysis. It's certainly not the most inexpensive draft kit on the market, but it is the best. Playerprofiler.com/draft kit. Playerprofiler.com/draft kit. Go get it.
And that draft kit features a commissioner section written by Memphis Young, who's here today.
I did right. It's the 10 commandments of being a fantasy football commissioner. Just all the things that you need to do, because being a commissioner is not easy. First of all, and you are doing the real work, because without you, the lineup does not. The league does not go. And it will go as you go. So, yeah, we definitely put it in there. I always love to say that Matt nails it. It's not the cheapest, but I love to quote Jerry Jones on my podcast when I run that informative segment from the Podfather. Jerry Jones, they had about $400 million of overruns there at Cowboy Stadium, and they asked Jerry about it. And Jerry said, look, nice things aren't cheap, and cheap things aren't nice. So is it the least expensive? No. But is it the best? We're biased, but we think so. Go check out the draft kit, guys. And if I can help you with your commissioner questions, just hit me up on Twitter at DWZMemphis. I'll be happy to help.
Yeah, we say it. Matt and I gush over it every time, and we have to say, I know we work here. I know we do, but trust me, I've looked at other draft kits. I've been around the fantasy space for a little bit now, and
well, you were the editor. I had no idea what any of this was going to look like until it dropped. So essentially, besides contributing to the content side a little bit, had no idea what the design was going to look like. And when it dropped, I was seriously amazed at the work that went behind it, the quality level, or the level of quality behind the graphics and the formatting and the level of analysis for each player and different rankings. I mean, there's truly not more of, I'm gushing over it again, but there's not a more comprehensive guide out there.
And shout out to Theo. Theo really worked hard putting that together, and everybody who contributed to it as well. I do want to shout out a couple things. Trade Gods. You got to go watch Trade Gods. It's one of my new favorite shows on the Player Profiler YouTube network. Airs tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Time. And I also want to shout out, we have a new producer for Dynasty Roundtable. He's in the chat right now under the name Notorious JR. His name is Jay. I'm going to throw up one of his comments right here. He says the commish section is fire. So we thank you so much to Jay. We needed a producer, and Jay's going to be our full-time producer. So go give him a follow wherever he goes on Twitter or wherever he is. So yeah, he's going to be our new producer. We may even have to bring him on here sometime to talk a little, to see what Jay's up to. But Matt, what's next on the docket for Memphis?
So we touched on it a little bit with some rookies that were really impressing us, but there are always some names that come out of the woodwork that, the masses, quote, have never heard of. There's always these guys that stumble up closer to week one. So who are the deep stashes? We have these dynasty leagues have deep rosters. Your waivers are hardly ever a thing, even though there's fab. You're playing on your taxi squad. Who are those guys that you're gonna be fighting for your league mates for coming up soon?
Well, he may already be rostered, but I like Eric Gray in New York with the Giants. I don't think he's getting enough love. Nothing against Matt Breida or any of the other bums there in New York. But if something happens to Saquon, he's a guy. But the guy I want to spend a minute on is Trey Palmer. So that was Cody, talk about the dog rating, and our boy Cody Carpentier. Trey Palmer was one of his guys, and I'll give credit where credit is due. And you hate to see someone get a big step forward because someone got hurt. But Russell Gage went down today in camp with a non-contact injury. Usually that's not a good thing. And that's going to open up more opportunity for Trey Palmer. And what did I see on Twitter literally as we're getting on this podcast? But none other than Trey Palmer getting behind Sauce Gardner at joint practice with the Jets. And not a lot of people, even in practice reps, get behind Sauce Gardner. So you're going to start slow. But this is, I see how many people are in the chat. I expect all of you to tell a friend what they're missing out on right after you pick their pocket on Trey Palmer, because you watched the Dynasty Roundtable. You should be out right now. While you're listening, you should be looking in your league trying to get Trey Palmer, because you're going to hear a drumbeat and you're going to continue to see it. Those are a couple. And then one last one. And he's already been out there because he's had a couple of good preseason games, but I got him on waivers in Superflex leagues as DTR. Thompson Robinson, the backup in Cleveland. First of all, Deshaun Watson has had 2 ACLs in his career. He's a knucklehead. There's not you don't have to like think really long and hard before you could see where, much like Jimmy Garoppolo and Aiden O'Connell, you could see this guy on the field this year. So those are a couple of guys that if I can go out and I can get them as like throw-ins on trades, like maybe you really like a trade, but you see a Trey Palmer, a DTR. I even like Charlie Jones. And I know you mentioned Andre, and I can't even pronounce his last name in Cincinnati. Another Purdue guy, Charlie Jones. Because they can't afford to keep, oh my goodness, the third wide receiver, Tyler Boyd. And, they got to pay Higgins. Is it really feasible to have 2 wide receivers making $20+ million on a team that you fancy a contender? So those are the kind of guys that I'm looking for, because the running backs are a little bit more obvious and they're a little bit more expensive, but these wide receivers that maybe have a little bit more of a barrier to entry, those are the guys I'm stashing.
Yeah. Trey Palmer's on my list too, man. I love that player. And now he's going to, unfortunately, you never want to see a guy get injured. He has more of a path to opportunity with this injury that didn't look very good, like you mentioned, to Russell Gage today. But you guys kind of stole my thunder, Matt Babbage, because I thought I was going to come on here and I should have known better. I thought I was going to say, oh, Aiden O'Connell, you should stash him in all of your dynasty leagues, because that's something I'm doing, because we know that Las Vegas is likely not going to be a very good team this year, and they could potentially be trading away Devontae Adams at the trade deadline and going full tank. Although it's a very interesting situation with their head coach and GM that appeared dead set on winning. But anyway, Aiden O'Connell, I think Brian Hoyer's on the roster too, but it would behoove them to see what they have in Aiden O'Connell, and he had a really good preseason game. So that is somebody I am going to add. But I'm going to throw another quarterback out there that I think could potentially see some snaps this year, and that's Clayton Tune from Arizona. Kyler Murray, we know, is coming back from the ACL. He's not going to be ready for week 1. Colt McCoy is the backup, and he's probably going to start the first set of games. But if this is a team that doesn't, if they get off to a slow start, and let's face it, they're not a very good football team. They're in a tough division with the 49ers and Seattle. And so they're likely a contender for the number 1 pick. Why not see what you got in Clayton Tune? Why not start him at the back half of the season? And if he gets some starts, he could have some value in super flex leagues. And, staying in that same offense, I think these guys are going to get opportunities, like the Keontae Ingrams of the world is the backup running back there behind James Conner, and Trey McBride, I still think is going to get some starts because Ertz is coming off that ACL. So I don't know why I stayed with Arizona there, but whatever.
Well, let me ask you a question schematically. No offense to Colt McCoy, but he's never going to be confused with the athlete that Kyler Murray is. Kyler Murray could lose an entire leg, and I think Colt McCoy is still behind. Yeah. But who plays the game more like Kyler Murray, so that when you're doing that, it's a new offensive coordinator, you do that new offensive install. Who plays the game more like your existing QB1? It's Clayton Tune. Yeah. It's not Colt McCoy. So if you're trying to do like more of and Clayton Tune's not Kyler Murray, but he's a lot closer in comparison to Kyler than Colt McCoy. And Colt McCoy gets hurt in his own right. I think Clayton Tune is going to be the guy. And Matt B in the chat said it's pronounced Tune.
Chun? Is that
Chun.
I'm gonna have to see some
Who's that Matt
documentation on
B?
that one.
Yeah, this is like that.
Ryan,
do we have a Matt
Kamara. I feel like we're being trolled. I don't know. Matt seems
No.
like a good guy. Maybe he's not.
But Clayton Chun or Tune or whatever. I mean, look, like he's 6'3". I mean, I know he's a 5th round pick and he's 24 years old, but he's a big kid and he runs a 4.6. I mean, I think he's got some talent. I don't know if he's going to amount to anything. But
why not showcase him and maybe you can flip him for something?
Exactly.
Because you're going to wind up with a high pick anyway. And there's like, if they get the 101, they're going to be up against the choice of Kyler or Caleb Williams. So why not have 2 potential quarterbacks you could trade? Because then you get more draft picks. So I think there's more to be gained by losing games with Clayton. And because I'm not going to go to his last name now until I get an official pronunciation. And you have more upside to lose games and letting him show you what he can be if Kyler's not going to play to start the season. So I'm all about that action.
Yeah, he certainly can't be a worse deep ball passer than Colt McCoy was last season. I mean, yeah, he's got the arm strength. I liked what I saw out of him. Having the willingness to take those deep shots, even though they weren't the most accurate passes. He has the strength to kind of fit the ball into the windows that he's going to need to fit him into. So I like the base of what I saw from Clayton Tune, and definitely, yeah, absolutely. And so defenses are going to have to pay attention to the fact that he'll tuck and run, or a read option, something with James Conner, whatever they script up. But yeah, it's going to be a lot closer to Kyler Murray. So I love those points about Tune. I'm gonna keep saying Tune.
Yeah.
A stat. He's probably, with the hype surrounding him, he's probably rostered. But in case he's not, maybe some late round trade bait right now is Dwayne McBride, because I don't know about you guys, but I watched that Minnesota game and I was not impressed with what I saw from Ty Chandler. That looked like just some compiled rushes. A lot of them were going. He was getting stuffed at the line. Didn't look explosive when he was attempting to break tackles, and he looked kind of slow. And when you're doing that against second teamers, you're going to get crushed by first teamers. And so I think Dwayne McBride, when he steps onto the field, is going to start earning himself some more snaps, because I don't think Ty Chandler's that dude. So I think Dwayne McBride has a path to being the team's RB2 sooner rather than later. And so, he's currently not priced at that, even if he is rostered. So McBride's a guy I'm trying to get on my rosters. And then you guys kind of hit all my strong points, really. I came here ready to talk about Charlie Jones, Trey Palmer, Clayton Tune. So we kind of covered all of mine there. Charlie, it's week 1 of preseason, but Charlie scared me because he was out there a lot, did not earn many targets. And Seth talks a lot about Marvin Mims. He brings him up on a lot of shows, and what he talks about is his pass blocking and how important that is. We saw George Pickens do the same thing. They're just animals out there, right? And that stuff earns you snaps, being reliable in those situations. And Charlie Jones looked afraid of initiating contact with anybody, and that's what concerned me, because if he doesn't have that in him to try and pass block, he's going to be in the slot. You got to be able to chip those guys for reliable screen games. So if he can't do that, if he can't make that a part of his game, then he's going to be a special teams guy. And so that's something I'm worried about from Charlie Jones.
Gotcha. So we do have one more question. I think it's the perfect question to end the show on. So Memphis, you've been playing Dynasty a long time. What's your golden rule, or what advice, I guess, or what rule do you live by, like during the preseason, if you had to give some advice to Dynasty gamers out there?
I will tell you this, that anything that you hear that's positive, cut that information in half, cut the positivity in half. And anything that you hear that is bad, multiply it by 2. It's lying season. So, it's great that, like, first of all, I don't need anyone to hype up Jahmyr Gibbs, but there's this video going around of him today, like bebopping through the line and like defenders like 2-hand touching him. And they're like, oh, this is all that I need to see to be able to move Jahmyr Gibbs up. I'm like, maybe I should try, getting my eyes checked. It just looked like a guy running through the line. And I saw 3 guys that potentially, if they were really trying to tackle him, maybe could have. So it's just anything that you see that's overly fluff, overly hype, cut it in half, and anything that's bad. Like the Treylon Burks news came out breaking. We're live on Wednesday evening. It's an LCL, supposed to be out for a couple of weeks. That tells me he's going to be out a month, and that we're going to be right up against week 1 or week 2. And yeah, it stinks because I think a lot of people had big high hopes for Treylon Burks, and then he gets cleared. Then there's like a couple of games of on-ramp. So they're saying it's a couple of weeks, but it's probably actually more like 6 weeks. So you multiply by 2, divide in half, and that will just keep you from overreacting. And the last thing I have is, if you've ever worked in manufacturing, understand quality. There's this thing called 3 diamond 5 Y. And if you're going to trade for a guy or you're going to trade away a guy, ask yourself why 5 times. And if you can't get to the third why as to why you're trading for somebody, might be a good idea to rethink trading for that person. So, but if you can, awesome. I implement some of this into my rookie picks, but ask questions. Why am I doing this? Where do I see it going? And then divide the fluff and multiply the bad. That's what I got for you. That is
so background on me, Memphis. I majored in industrial engineering. And so I am, into lean. I have a green belt certification. I work in manufacturing and logistics. I can't believe I just heard 5 times why incorporated into fantasy football, but it's such great advice, getting down to that root cause analysis and being able to.
Well, can I give you my rookie thoughts on this? Because I've been incorporating this for years into rookies.
Absolutely.
Your first round rookie pick, you should be able to answer 5 whys as to why you're drafting them. Your second round rookie should be 4. Third round should be 3. 4 should be 2. And then 5th round guys, why? Because he's here. He has a pulse. But when you force yourself to really dig in and ask questions, you guys Ted Lasso fans at all?
Yeah, haven't seen season 3, but
okay. But the scene where they're in the bar playing darts.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, be curious, not judgmental. That's the way, another thing that you can apply. Be curious. When someone says something that you don't like on Twitter or you don't agree with, don't get mad. Don't get judgmental and just disagree with them. Ask yourself, why are they saying it? Is there some merit to this? Can I learn something from this? And if you can't, then react. But if not, just try to learn and be curious and get to some root cause or some root reasoning, and you'll find that you get a lot better at this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Seth has gotten me to do this with David Montgomery multiple times live on air. When we first started the whole debacle, I was so out on Montgomery, even at current cost. And then now slowly I've realized, there was a lot to the other side that I was kind of shutting out, because I had labeled David Montgomery as this, dusted plotter, which he, was not. And so, that's that type of advice is truly sound. So, and what's funny is what I kind of came prepared with was similar to what you put, which is, pay more attention to the bad at this time of the year, but you have to be paying attention to everything. So, kind of going off of what you said earlier about following all those beat reporters, every single rookie, every single prospect that's out there right now is someone to be paying attention to. And, the highlights that are going to surface on Twitter from, NFL accounts and bigger accounts, those are the social media plays. And the ones that are posted by the team social accounts are, ones that, they're going to show you the good of Quentin Johnston. This is not the point I'm trying to make, I promise. But, you have to pay attention to find the other intricacies that are happening in practice. If there are drops or, there are these beat reporters, they are watching everything and they're reporting on everything that's happening. You can complete a lot of these player profiles and ask yourselves those questions. And, the preseason is a good time easy time to lose focus, get wrapped up in maybe redraft your other leagues, best ball, when there's so much happening right now in Dynasty that there are so many windows to capitalize on. And this is one of the most important times to be locked in.
Yeah, I mean, so much good advice there. The only thing I'll add is, really consider the source. I think Memphis was talking about this when you mentioned, follow the beat reporters. For me, with my Bears, it's Adam Johns and Courtney Cronin. Courtney Cronin's out there killing it on the beat path. Just a lot of good actionable information about the team that I follow. So
Well, the last thing I didn't mean to cut you off
ahead.
there, but
No, go ahead.
when you follow just the beat reporters, you don't follow any fantasy people because that's your job. We're the fantasy football and dynasty fantasy football content creators. It's my job to put the dynasty and fantasy spin on that. It's your job as the fantasy and dynasty gamer to put your own spin on that. How can I take advantage of this? How am I getting this first by following, Courtney and the other fella on the Bears? How do I get this actionable advice on Roshan's balling out and moving up the depth chart? Because if you follow it from a fantasy perspective, you run the risk of falling into the trap of the echo chamber.
Yes, exactly. It's information. It's just that's exactly what it is. This is what happened. There's no like Seth pumping up Roshan because I love him because I always will. So you're getting the straight facts from these people, and it's great advice. And I honestly don't have much to add to that because that's basically what I do. Is I follow these beat reporters like Mike Reese has covered the Patriots forever.
Yep.
Like these are the guys you should be listening to. And then Memphis is right. Come to Player Profiler to get our fantasy analysis on that information. That's how you should play it. I completely 100% agree. And I don't have anything else to add, but to say that as we transition into plugs, if you're not tuned into the Dynasty Warzone, if you're not following Memphis on Twitter and YouTube, he has his own YouTube channel. You need to go do that right now because thank you so much for coming on. It's been a fantastic episode, but I'll give you an opportunity now to plug whatever you got to plug, man.
Just real simple. First of all, this is why this is why we brought the Dynasty Warzone 2-player profiler, is to be able to interact with guys like yourself, like Matt, like Matty Keywoom, like Jason, like Seth, you are Seth, Theo, and John, and all these amazing people. But I do want to give my bold prediction. So you can follow me anywhere. If you just search Dynasty Warzone, we do a bonus podcast. So if you're already tuned in to Player Profiler, you're going to get our main show, that simulcast Wednesday live on the Player Profiler YouTube channel. And then the podcast is in the Player Profiler audio, whether you're Spotify, Apple, whatever. But we do bonus shows. And if you search Dynasty Warzone, you'll find all of our audio and video content there. But I do want to give my bold prediction because I was prepared to give a bold prediction. Can I do that on the way out?
I always forget about.
No, you're good because I saved this one. I didn't tweet this yet because I was saving it for this show. You ready?
Oh wow! All right.
Aaron Rodgers, top 5 fantasy QB this year. And as a dynasty gamer, you get 2 years out of him. What does Aaron Rodgers want? He wants to defend the honor of the quote unquote best coach I've ever had. He's going to go out with that offense, with Garrett Wilson, with Breece Hall, with Dalvin Cook, with Alan Lazard, Corey Davis. He is going to be like that dragon in Game of Thrones, and he is going to scorch the earth of everything. You think he's motivated? Remember 2 years ago when he was motivated in Green Bay and he won back-to-back MVPs? You've offended his best friend. You've caused him to give back $37 million. If you wanted a motivated, pissed off Aaron Rodgers, you got it. And that first year, we thought we were going to get it last year with Russ. You're going to see what you saw in 2020 with Tom Brady, where he finished, QB8, Matthew Stafford in 2021, where he finished as QB6. You're going to see big things out of this New York Jets offense. And for those of you that play DFS, write this down on your calendar. Aaron Rodgers, week 5 at the Broncos. You don't think he wants some of Sean Payton's ass after what he said about Nathaniel Hackett in the media? I think, again, you do pray that you're not playing Aaron Rodgers in head-to-head week in week 5 because it's going to be bad. So there you go. There's my bold take.
Seth.
Yeah, well,
how do we feel?
Not great, because I have a lot of respect for Memphis because I don't agree. Man, a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, I guess he has his boy now. I mean, he brought the whole Green Bay posse with him. Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb.
Hey,
And now,
surround yourself with friends that love you as much as like Adam Sandler and Aaron Rodgers love their boys, because they always put everybody on. The whole crew gets put on if you're in the inner circle of Aaron Rodgers or Adam Sandler, because it's like the same 8 movies, the same guys in every movie. But that's my thing.
If there's
You're
any
right.
quarterback that's kept his body up to par and his arm healthy and maintained arm strength over the course of his career, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is closer on the scale. Seth is going to hate this.
And that's
Aaron
why
Rodgers is closer on the scale to Tom Brady than he is to Breeze or Roethlisberger or Rivers or Manning in terms of how they aged in the twilight years of their career. I mean, Rodgers, I know it's training camp, but I mean, if that offensive line can protect him and this offense is what we think they can be, I can see it in the realm of possibility.
I'm telling you, we said think about all the same things. Hey, Tom Brady's doing all this different stuff, and he's, he wasn't the Tom Brady in New England, and that's the exact same thing. He's doing the smoke and the J celebration with Sauce Gardner. They're going out on the town. He gave back $37 million. He's got a point to prove. You've offended. I saw that in the show sheet. I didn't pick that because it was in there. I'm just telling you, I like guys with a chip on their shoulder, and I think Aaron Rodgers has got like the Rock of Gibraltar there. He's ready to light this league up this year.
Wow, it could almost be a whole other show of counterpoints.
Well, how about this? We'll wrap this one up, but I'll have you guys come on the Dynasty Warzone in about a week, and we can do part 2 of this. How does that sound?
I would love that.
To be continued. To be continued. Yeah. We're not over. To be continued.
The cliff notes would be, we have a 40-year-old who as much as he might want to do it, he might not be able to do it playing with a team with a great defense where he's, likely just going to have to manage some leads, plays real slow. But anyway, that's just the cliff notes. But yeah, thank you, Memphis, for coming on. Matt, what do you have to plug? Do you have anything to plug?
2 articles just dropped. One on that one's in the vault. One on Superflex draft strategy. That one just dropped yesterday. So walk through the early, mid, and late round phases, what you should be checking off your list for Superflex drafts and how to kind of capitalize on positional value while kind of letting the draft flow to you. So my comprehensive Superflex draft strategy guide is released. And then also an article on dumpster diving for some veteran value. And so guys like Mac Hollins and Devin Singletary are a little undervalued right now, especially in underdog drafts. So I write a little bit about them and then 2 other players. So you can check that out on playerprofiler.com in the article section, or at my staff page in the Player Profiler website. Other than that, we're rocking and rolling with this podcast every Wednesday.
Yeah, and shout out to people like Matt Babbage and Jonathan Lang and Aditya Foldiore, and the list goes on and on of the people that I work with. I love this job. If you don't know who I am, I'm the editor at playerprofiler.com. I work with all these talented people. I read everything they have to say, and it's made me a much better fantasy football player. So that's exactly what you should go do for free right now in the news and article section. And there's their Twitter handle at the bottom of every article, so you can easily click on it and follow them. And these guys, they're very sharp and they don't have enough followers, so go do that. They deserve way, way more, in the thousands and not the hundreds. So that's my plug. You can also follow me on Twitter, see my crazy Aaron Rodgers rants and other things. Seth_DIEWOLD. So I don't think Memphis is going to like how we end the show always, but any final words of wisdom before we give them the signature farewell?
Nope. Just thanks for having me on, and be sure to look for these guys here in the next week or so on the Dynasty Warzone.
All right. So Sam Babbage, if you don't know, is Matt's father, and he's a regular listener, so he knows that I'm an old young person. I don't always play nice with technology, so it's always a struggle for me. You'd think after about 20 or 30 shows I would have this figured out, but let's see if he's right, if I can end the show correctly here. So thank you once again for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, go follow Memphis wherever he goes. And as always, nobody cares about Aaron Rodgers, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. I thought I had it. Oh, there it is.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.